Hey everybody, it's Josh with the UberProAudio podcast, and on today's show, we got a big one for you. I spoke to Gary Holt from Exodus and Slayer, and it was pretty great. I'm going to be honest with you. We talked about everything from, what got him into picking up guitar to, who inspires him and what drives his playing and his love of playing after all this time. And then we nerded out on some gear, which was great, and got some insight into some signature products that are coming out. And I think we might be breaking a story. I don't want to say that without Googling it, because I literally just got off the phone with him. But really, really great interview. Little surreal. I'm going to be totally real with you right now. I had one of those moments mid-conversation where I'm like, holy shit, this is Gary Holt from Exodus. Why the fuck is he talking to me? I had that. I'll own it. I had that a little bit where I was like, this is ridiculous. But super nice guy. Super nice guy. Could have talked to him for hours just about gear. He's just super knowledgeable and way into it, which is great. So without further ado, because you're going to need about an hour for this, here's our interview with Gary Holt. Enjoy. Cheers. So let's just jump into it and kind of start from the beginning. I heard on an interview that one of the people who inspired you to pick up a guitar was Ted Nugent.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Ted Nugent fan. Not necessarily of politics, but
right.
Although I do agree with him on certain things. I'm also I'm a rare person in this day and age that's able to separate someone's political beliefs from their guitar chops.
Yeah.
Ted's one of my heroes. He inspired me to pick up a guitar. I'd seen him live so many times, and he looked like he was 10 feet tall up on stage, and he's just ripping rock guitar licks, fucking, on epic, long, jammed out versions of the songs, and just one of my heroes. I love his shit. I still like to jam on his stuff, sound checks, and I still listen to it. And, some of my favorite fucking rock guitar playing is on his records.
Right on. So did you did you hear him and it was an immediate light bulb kind of moment, like I need to kind of gravitate towards guitar, and you went from there?
Yeah, possibly. He's not my favorite guitar player. He's probably not in my top 10. But,
really?
In my early years, whereas a lot of guys, all you hear about is like Kiss, it's like, God, Kiss made me want to play guitar. Ted was, I saw him at his peak when he was like, the highest grossing rock musician in the world at his time, before he started putting 5 more guitar players in his band and shit.
Yeah.
And I saw him at his peak with his classic lineup with Derek St. Holmes and everybody. And he was just fucking phenomenal. He's probably in my top 10, possibly. That's kind of always one of those things. Anytime anybody asks you to name a top 10, you forget somebody. You're leaving someone out every time.
For sure. So now, when was the first time you sat down with a guitar and you had that initial connection?
Well, Kirk Hammett showed me my first chords. Him and I, Exodus had played my high school music room, when it was Kirk, Tom Hunting, Carlton Nelson on bass, and a guy named Tim Agnello played guitar. Mm-hmm. And, I knew Tom Hunting. We grew up on the opposite sides of a park from each other. And the first time I really hung out with Kirk was Ted Nugent and the Scorpions, of all, speaking of Ted.
Yeah.
And it was actually Scorpions' first U.S. show. And we hit it off like super fast friends right away. And he showed me my first chords, showed me a couple of licks and stuff like that. And 6 months later, I was in Exodus.
That's a pretty fast transition for most people.
I picked it up really quick. As good as I got in such a short period of time, and say the first 2 or 3 years, I should be really good right now. I'm not near as good as I should be. I peaked really young.
Well, I was going to ask because
but it used to be a big topic of conversation. Exodus plays clubs and wow, that guy's really good. He's only been playing a year.
Yeah.
It just kind of seemed to me the guitar made sense.
Yeah.
I kind of understood how it worked. I don't know. It's really weird. I picked up on harmony and music theory like relatively quickly. And like I said, 30-some years later, I should be like Uli Roth, and I'm not. So,
Well, I was going to ask, do you still kind of embrace all the theory? Like, do you find yourself kind of sitting down when you have a chance? I know, I imagine you're incredibly busy. When you have any downtime, do you kind of sit down and see how you can kind of push your playing in certain ways that maybe you haven't before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you always got to try. You get some guys, they're just not interested in trying to expand their repertoire. At 53 years old, I'm not trying to like become a different guitar player. I'm just trying to better what I already do.
Right.
And sometimes it's as simple as like interjecting a new little twist into something you've done a million times.
Mm-hmm.
Or just working on speed and technique. And sometimes in my case, it's also a lot about working on just overcoming that time and repetition I've had on your hands.
Right.
I've been playing this music, this 20 million note music for, since I was 17 years old. And it's only gotten more, difficult to play because, like, speaking as far as Exodus, the riffs have become more bludgeoning and brutal, and they take a toll on your joints, and sometimes I listen to stuff I did, late 80s, early 90s, and I remember recording it. Man, that's really good. I'd have a hard time, like, replicating that, as far as lead, just sometimes you do, have to, like, overcome, the fact that your knuckles, begging for mercy after a while. But, to me, it's all about rhythm playing anyway, and my rhythm chops are as strong as ever. So the rest of it, I don't really give a shit about.
Well, that kind of segues perfectly. I was going to ask, you recently put a post on Instagram about getting some injections into your elbow. Is that kind of like along those lines of just the wears of playing for so long?
Well, hopefully that was a one-time thing. My doctor said it probably was. I've been playing for 30-something years, and I've never developed tennis elbow.
Which is great.
But, during the Lamb of God Behemoth tour, just the tendon right on the outer bone of the elbow just, like, started getting heavily irritated, so icing it down. And then 2 weeks after the tour, I went out for 3 weeks with Exodus, and I'm like, Slayer, Exodus, we play 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
So I found myself actually going a little bit lighter strings on the high side of the guitar, just to like lighten my workload on my left hand, and then I've been home for a few weeks and it just wasn't getting any better. So they put a cortisone injection in it, and within 2 days, I feel like I've never had anything wrong with it. So
really,
and
that
he
quick?
says hopefully, it'll rectify it and it won't come back. So if it does, I'll get another one.
Well, here's hoping. That's kind of awesome though that it worked that quickly.
I should have videoed it. It was hella gross.
Really?
Well, because, he says, you want me to just count it off or just go for it? Because I don't like needles. I don't mind needles like in your arm for a vaccination or shit like that. But when you're talking about in your joints, I've had 3 epidurals, it ain't no fun.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to look. The shot didn't hurt that much. It burned a little bit, but then he goes, don't look. And I looked, and it's like a golf ball under the skin, until the cortisone actually is absorbed, everything he stuck in there just swelled it out. And I wish I had videoed it. It's really fucking gnarly.
Yeah, I feel in that my wife, when she gave birth to her youngest daughter, she had an epidural, and that was the first time I got to watch one up close. I was like, man, fuck that noise.
Yeah, I've had 3 for my back, but I swore them off, and I've just dealt with like just getting my core stronger and strengthening my back the old-fashioned way with work, instead of meds. But when I first got the epidural, I was in agony. I had to do it. I was touring and gritting my teeth through it, but I'd have like maybe on a scale of 1 to 10 pain-wise, about 1 out of every 10 shows my pain level would drop to about a 7, and I'd be happy.
Jesus.
So, but this whole year of touring has been really good in my back. Happy.
Man. Well, I'm glad you're feeling a bit better. That's crazy. That would be just
Fucking falling apart sometimes.
Well, I was gonna say it's got to be tough to have fun. Like you have, I would imagine, as most musicians do, they feel like they owe their fans the best they can possibly give during a live performance, and then like you're quietly dealing with like this agonizing pain. Like that's got to just be not rocking.
I think in the end, it just people think you're man, that dude's heavy. Look at those fucking faces. That's the grimace of agony, pain. But, it's like, I'm going to give it everything I got every time I'm out on stage. And, and I'm always going to give it 100%. Some nights your 100% is a bigger 100 than others. That's just the way it always is, But it's, I'm never going to mail it in. It's like, when I'm able to tour and, like, be pain-free, it's awesome. Just been killer, and it makes it that much more enjoyable. It's like when the shows hurt really bad, you have to be feet for an hour and a half, and then you deal with depression. It's like, fuck, I can't stand up for an hour and a half. I can't fucking couldn't work at Burger King.
Yeah,
because I couldn't stand behind the counter serving Whoppers. But it's been a really good year, and things are continuing to improve, so I'm fucking stoked.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hopefully, like in the next probably in the next like 4 or 5 years, I would imagine they'll have those like stem cell injection shots ready for like anyone whenever they need them, and they won't be like $13,000 like they are now.
I'm just waiting for them to fucking start cloning, like for real, like and then I'll just stay home and send my clone out.
It's one of those weird things where it's like, you gotta know someone somewhere is fucking with that right now. Like, on a weird level.
There's one somewhere. We've all probably spoke to one.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even know it.
It's crazy.
We might have ordered a burrito at Chipotle and had no idea.
That's who's running the shit, is like all the fast food companies. They're slowly getting rid of these employees.
Don't know, do we? But, if I could ever, like, buy my own clone, I'll send his ass out on tour, and then I'll show up and do the really good shows that I'm really stoked about.
There you go.
But actually, I'm stoked about all of them. I like playing, I prefer smaller cities more than big cities, because the larger the city, the more guests, the more press, the more responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then you play a smaller city, and I've got no guests. I just, I don't have to like entertain anybody or speak to anybody, and just do the show and hang out with the crew and the band,
Well, that's something I wanted to talk to you about, because like doing research for this interview and going through and watching all your interviews, the one thing that I really dig is every time you talk about playing these shows and everything like that, like you're one of those musicians when you say like, I do it for the love of the music and I do it because I love playing guitar. It's like, I genuinely believe you. And I love hearing that someone who's played for as long as you have, that you still like fucking love the fact that you get to go out on stage and play guitar every night. And I think that's, I don't want to be jaded or cynical and say that that's a rarity, but I feel like we don't hear those stories enough from musicians. So I thought that was really cool that you seem to just genuinely love doing what you do every day.
It's the one thing I'm really good at, It's, I don't have any other job skills, I suppose I could try to earn a living based on my charm. It's like, and I'm an intelligent guy, but as far as vocational training, I have none. I play guitar, and I'm really lucky that I'm able to do it. All these years later, I have picked up the guitar twice in the last like 3 weeks since I got home, because of my buzz dealing with that. I just got shot last week, and I had some other like traveling I had to do. And that's a long stretch of not playing, because I know guys who they'll be off tour for 6 months and won't pick up guitar till 2 weeks before tour starts.
Really?
And I've done that in the past, and then I show up to rehearsal and I'm struggling to keep up on my own songs that I wrote, but that's years ago, and I try to keep playing, and it's almost like weight training, for this kind of music, you got to keep the muscles up so you can, keep pushing up the reps of like heavy weight, And then I look at guys, you know, dudes who are, you know, I'm lucky to call my friends, and I shoot, and I admire their skills greatly, like John 5. You know, this guy never stops playing.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so fucking good, and he can play pretty much every musical style known on the face of the earth, because, you know, he just constantly practices, and I should practice more. You know, I see what he does. I see what Zac does, you know, and the dude's just getting better and better. And it just makes me want to woodshed again. You know?
Yeah. No, it's funny, and I think it's solid advice for younger players. You know, I don't want to say I've been playing guitar for that long. I have, like, maybe 15, 16 years, and I'm not nearly as good as I probably should be. But it's one of those things where I think you spend so much time looking for shortcuts and, like, how you can get that good. Like, you know, my favorite guitar player growing up has been Zakk Wylde, and it's like, oh man, how do I get that fast? And it's like, you kind of have to just, like, after scouring the internet and magazine articles, you got to sit there and you got to practice over and over and over and over again. And there are no shortcuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, Zac had sent me a little video, you know, because, you know, he's the master of, like, the pentatonic shred, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've always thought that's the hardest, the first scale you learn, and it's the last one you're ever going to master. You know, and it's just, and I that's one I constantly work on. You know, I want to get better at it always, you know, and he'll send me a little video clip, and I'm like, man, that's just so fast. How the fuck am I going to do that? And he's meme that says discipline 007. He's right. It takes discipline, you know, like, you know, it's easy to, like, get, all right, that's pretty fast, you know, I'm good with that. But you want to take it to another level, you know. You know, and I'm always trying to take something in it somewhere I haven't done it before. But, you know, I'm going to play like me. And, you know, at 53 years old, I'm not concerned with, like, you know, trying to, like, learn what Steve Vai does, you know.
Yeah.
I admire it greatly. But, you know, I'm just going to be me. I think I've earned the right to, like, have my own voice and style at what I do, you know.
Well, I think it's been well established.
At least I think I have my own style. I don't know. You know, I don't listen to my own playing, really.
As someone who's spent the last week and a half listening to only your playing, I would have to say you do.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly,
I don't listen to my own records. It's like I get really bored with myself really quickly. You know, I'm not a guy who's like sits and listens to his own stuff and pats himself on the back. You know, when an album is done, I never listen to it anymore. I've heard it fucking 5,000 times by the time it's mixed. You know, I don't see the need to, like, ever even open the disc and put it on.
I used to not relate to that at all. Like, I used to hear that and be like, man, but that record's so good. And then just through doing this podcast or conducting interviews all over, I hate the sound of my own voice now. Because I hear it so often. It's like,
oh, yeah.
I don't want to listen to that interview again.
First time I ever heard it. but God, do I really sound that nasally? Today I'm kind of a little bit hoarse, so my voice is deepened a little bit. Yeah, it's totally understandable. No, I mean, I don't hate the sound of my own playing. I'd rather listen to Michael Schenker than Gary Holt. You know?
Well, you've just heard it to death. It's like, I know how this goes. It's okay.
And, you know, and I'm not my inspiration. You know, it's like, you know, I still listen to the guys who inspired me as a kid. You know, Richie Blackmore's still my favorite guitar player all time, followed by Michael Schenker, and sometimes, depending on the mood, they switch places at 1 and 2. You know, you know, I still think Angus Young does pick slides that are more memorable than 99% of every shred solo ever done. You know,
that's a great breakdown. I like that.
And you know, as far as, you know, super fucking, you know, dudes, you know, I'm going to listen to Lee Roth. You know,
nice.
You know, and those are my favorite guys from my youth, and they're still the ones I want to listen to now. You know,
that's awesome.
Except for Mike Mott and Jeff Loomis, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, John 5 and Zach. You know. But mostly I listen to the old guys, you know, and the guys who I listened to when was 16 are the ones I still listen to.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I think that kind of, I don't know, that says something about, like, staying kind of grounded to your roots or like attached to your roots? Because I find I'm kind of similar in that sense, where it's like I have, you know, the 4 or 5 people who, similar to you, like I was more of a bluesy kind of guy to an extent. Like I was like Zach, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then kind of a combination of a couple other guys. And it's like, that's basically what I listen to on a regular basis. It's like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a million guitar players I love. You know,
yeah.
like anytime I'm naming guys, I forget guys. You know, it's like Gary Moore, of course, Rory Gallagher.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorites, you know. And Frank Marino and Robin Trower, you know. And
Yes.
so many fucking amazing dudes, you know, that I, you know, Tony Iommi, of course, you know.
Yeah, you can even, honestly,
single-handedly invented heavy metal.
It's one of those things. It's like when people are like, and I do this a lot. I'll totally own this. I do this a lot where I'm like, oh, what's your favorite movie? It's like, man, I'm such a movie nerd. It's like, how much time you got? I have like 150 favorite movies. It's like, it all depends on your mood and where you are and what you want to watch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's like I'm pretty much the same way. You know, it's like, you know, and it's all flavors, and they all, you know, they all have something to do with who you become yourself as a musician. You know, it's like,
yeah,
you've soaked in little bits of all of it. You're just like a sponge cake, and you just, well, I'm more like a fruit cake, I guess. I'm a fucking nut. At least I've been told I'm nuts. It depends on what mood you catch me in. But, you know, it's like, you know, I think the problem with the kids today is too many of them don't listen to those dudes. Or at least they didn't. Now I think they do. There's a lot of great guitar players, but there was a period where, you know, your first favorite guitar player was Yngwie, and you're just trying to play as fast as you possibly could out the gate, and you never learned any basic blues licks first, you know?
Yeah.
Yngwie's fucking, you know, he's a master. He's so badass. And, but, you know, you need to learn a little bit of what Keith Richards does first before you start trying to, like, you know, use every finger you got for hammer-ons and play as fast as you can. You know, learn how to get tone, learn how to hit the notes and how to strike them in a way that, like, brings the note to life, you know?
I do, and it's funny you say that. A good friend of mine and a blues musician here in Canada recently posted a Facebook thing about, you know, these child prodigy guitar players who are just, like, shredding Freebird and all that kind of stuff on YouTube, and it's cool, but it's what I refer to as, like, it's not knowing the why behind the notes. And I'm guilty as sin of this, you know, coming up playing guitar, where it's like, I just want to sound like Zach. Like, that's it. Like, I want heavy distortion. I want to know how to do pinch harmonics. And I want to know how to shred. And that's it. I don't care about anything else. And then you start taking guitar lessons and you're going at like 1 mile per hour. And it's because you need to know the why behind all of those note choices.
Yeah.
And you need to establish that before anything. And to your point, it's kind of, it is a weird thing with the times, because I think it's split. Is you have those guys who just can go 0 to 60 without really knowing the in-between, or you have the group of kids who, because of all the access to information, can learn crazy in-depth more than we ever could when we were kids about the why.
Yeah. You know, and when you see these young wonder kids, you know, they're 10, 11 years old, maybe eventually they will discover the why.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen some videos of some kids who are pretty fucking rad, you know, and you're looking at them and you're looking at what they're doing, and you got to remember their hands are barely able to reach across the fretboard.
Yeah.
You know, what are they going to do when they actually grow into their fucking bodies and the guitar isn't dwarfing them anymore? They're going to be fucking that much more insane, you know. You know, and I'm all for it. You know, I just love seeing that people solo again. You know, I mean,
yep.
I just didn't want the whole fucking new metal shit crave just come and, like, you know, and relegate guitar players to like one note tune to drop B fucking riff, if you want to call it that. You know,
yeah. What was up with that? I never really bought into that. I was like, what's going on? Like, obviously I gravitate towards guitar-centric music, but yeah, that became a really big thing. It's like, what happened? Guitar is awesome. It's okay to play solos.
Well, some of the bands from that era were really killer. Korn are fucking amazing. Yeah, there's no solos, but they were really instrumental in showing what kind of textures you can apply to the music, just via guitar. How you can add atmosphere and stuff.
Yeah.
And but there was you also had Crazy Town.
Yeah.
Shit like that. It was fucking whatever. I begrudge nobody.
Yeah.
Music is like food. It's it's what might be the best tasting dish in the world. Someone else might fucking hate it.
Yes.
It's and who's to tell them their food sucks? They like my dad like it. Shit's disgusting, but he liked it. So. And when I was young, I should have listened to my dad. He kept telling me about all these amazing country guitar players, and I was a young fucking metal guitar player. He didn't think my dad knew shit about guitar playing. And now, in my older years, I realized, that Chet Atkins was fucking insanely awesome.
Yeah.
Rory Clark, fucking all those dudes,
It's funny you say that. I'm hugely addicted to the Chris Shiflett podcast, guy from the Foo Fighters, and he has all of these country guys on, and they all talk about all these old country players like you just named, and it's it sent me on the craziest deep dives where I'm like, oh, who's this person? I'm writing it down in bed, I gotta find them on YouTube, and it's crazy all the music that you don't know is out there when you kind of relegate yourself to certain genres sometimes.
Yeah, as a young kid, you was minded, now, I'm pretty much known in Slayer as being the human jukebox, Barry pretty much is there any song you don't know? Anything will come on the radio, I'll sing it, no matter whether it's 30 years old or fucking 4 years old.
Right on.
Whether it's fucking classic fucking Haight-Ashbury hippie rock or Katy Perry, I just, I soak it in. I'm a fucking jukebox, And if I don't know a little bit of some band, I'll learn it by sound check,
Yeah.
And that's because I love music. Music's killer. It isn't all my cup of tea, but there's you can take in influence from anywhere. I mean, my musical hero is Prince. Fucking that shit cheers upon his basket.
Right on.
And and he's like my idol. Fucking ultimate musician. We'll never see another one like him.
I agree.
And I've been a fan forever. And I actually got a tribute guitar and it being built right now. It's going to blow your mind. Yeah, it's fucking insane. And I'm one of those, I hate to be that guy, but I am one of those guys, when Prince died, it's great hearing everybody pay tribute, but, and I'll see this guy or that guy, talking about what an influence. So dude, let's take that Pepsi challenge right now. Let's fucking put on some shit and sing along and see who knows every little fucking musical part in the background. And I'll win that battle with anybody.
Yeah.
It would take someone like Questlove to take me down. There ain't nobody in metal knows those records better than I do.
Yeah. Well, it's all that social media, the what about me-isms when it's someone passes.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, Prince is it's funny because I'm 32, so I kind of missed the Prince wave. I was more of a Genesis and Meatloaf kid when I was growing up, and low-key super guitar player. I wasn't aware until I was in my
Oh, he's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
He's an amazing guitar player, but I like him at his best when he's on a piano.
Really?
And I've seen him live several times. I've seen him play clubs after the show. I've just seen him play.
No way.
So he plays 4 a.m. I'm really disappointed, of course, that he passed away, and I was on tour when he did the piano and microphone tour, which would have been, to me, the ultimate way to see him, just him singing at a piano.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the greatest singer ever was, and he's a phenomenal pianist, and I would have killed to see that, and I wasn't home. I couldn't catch it.
It's too bad. So I think bucket list, Elton John for me is top of the list, bucket list concerts.
Harry went and saw Elton John in Vegas, and I was super jealous. He's one of those guys I've never seen. I'd love to see it.
Same. First vinyl I ever bought was from a thrift store. I got the double LP of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and that like that just kills
Epic.
me. Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah, it's epic. I mean, I love piano players, you know. And, you know, I love singer pianists, you know, like I love Tori Amos, you know, it's fucking awesome. I always wish I'd learned to play piano. I've never even had one to practice on, you know. Like occasionally you walk in some room and there's one sitting there and you go and try to like chicken pick a couple of notes out that you're just transcribing from guitar, you know. But I've never learned to like actually do it. Like Rick Hill, you know, original other guitarist in Exodus, he's a very good pianist. You know.
Really?
Zac Brown, Zach's a fucking phenomenal piano player, you know. And you know, and I really admire the pianists, you know. I wish I could do that, you know.
Yeah, that's another guy who I you know, I wasn't super aware of until or I should say super aware of his piano abilities until I think it was like a Black Label DVD dropped where like I had no idea that Zach played piano and so well. You're just like, where did this happen? Like, what aren't you good at? Like, leave some for the rest of us.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you have to look up him. You know, I used to have a live bootleg from just some little club. Like, you know, I'm talking little. I think it was Paradise Lounge in San Francisco or something. Mm-hmm. And he did just him on piano doing Candle in the Wind. It's fucking amazing.
No shit.
Amazing. Oh, yeah. You look it up. You'll find it out there, an audio of it at least. You know.
I will have to track that down.
And, you know, and he brought this, like, Greg Allman soul to it.
Oh.
That was just fucking a guy for it. You know, I mean, I'm one of those guys who's constantly lamenting the loss of Southern rock. I miss Southern rock. You know, it's like Blackfoot's one of my favorite bands all time. You know, and I've seen them probably as many times live as any band ever. You know, I think I've seen like 7 times.
Really?
You know, back in the day, and like just phenomenal. Molly Hatchet, The Outlaws, fucking, of course, Skynyrd, 38 Special. You know, I want to see more bands from Florida, you know, that aren't death metal bands.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Like that's a genre that really hasn't thrived. As popular as country is right now, or pop country, I guess you could call it. There is
well,
no.
Yeah,
like...
they dress like they're in the Goo Goo Dolls, you know, with their little frosted haircuts and their little like fucking designer jeans and shit, and they sing purely pop songs, but with a little Nashville twang on it.
Yeah.
On the vocals. You know, that's not country at all, you know, for one.
No.
And, you know, it's like, I fucking love Southern rock. You know, some of the greatest guitar playing ever's on that stuff.
I couldn't agree more. Some songs that I can't touch with a 10-foot pole. Like, there's so many Skynyrd songs that I grew up listening to that, like, do you ever, I'm sure you don't because you're like a virtuoso guitar player, but like, when you have those songs where you're like, well, it's been 10 years since I've tried to play this. I could probably play this now. And you sit down and you're like, oh, no, I still can't play this song. It's way too advanced for me. It's like, that's how I feel most Skynyrd songs are.
Sometimes some of the simplest things, you know, like you listen to the solo section on Freebird, you know, like it requires some major stamina to play that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, and, you know, it's not the licks that are hard. They're doing that shit for fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like listen to Ted Nugent on Double Live Gonzo's solo on fucking Wang Dang Sweet Poon Tang, you know? It's fucking relentless.
Well,
it's fucking, you know, it's like, you know, it's really hard to keep that pace up without your fucking left hand getting tired.
Well, for me, and maybe it's because, like, my brain's not that good, but it's like, I don't remember shit that well. Like, I'll get lost in a fucking solo over 2 minutes where it's like, I don't even know where I am anymore. I don't remember what I just played. I don't know where I'm going with this. Like, this is too much. Give me 45 seconds and a hard out and I'm good.
I mean, I still, you know, to an extent, improvise something in every solo I do live.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it keeps me interested, you know, like, and some nights, you know, you'll finish a solo, and I have a thing with my tech, and Slayer Warren Lee. If I do a really good one, he's got me in his in-ears. He's listening, and if I do something he's never heard me do before, and it's just fucking awesome, we look at each other and point at each other at the end of the solo. And then sometimes I'll look at him and shake my head like, that didn't work. And sometimes I'll do something so good, and after the show, I'm like, yep, I don't know how I did that. I'll never be able to do that one again. because it was so spontaneous.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, it's just milliseconds of timing, and the thought directs you to go in a different place with the solo. And, it's not always easy, but what, I do it and I pull it off, I'm super happy, and it keeps the show, exciting for me.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask, like, how besides that, like, how do you keep it interesting? Like, I would imagine just naturally there would be a certain level of monotony after 30 plus years of playing shows. Like, is it just genuinely playing music live that keeps it super exciting for you?
Well, fortunately for me, I play in a musical genre where the crowd keeps it exciting.
Right on.
It's like, I've seen some fucking crazy shit.
Yeah.
And, when you look down and the crowd's just fucking killing each other, your heart rate fucking jumps through the roof, your blood pressure's boiling, you're fucking ready to go.
Right on.
And, like, look up the fucking Exodus Wall of Death at Falcon for several years.
Oh, dude.
When you see that fucking large of a crowd of people run Braveheart style head on into each other, you can't help but fucking get pumped up, And, I suppose if I played in a kind of music where everybody sat in their seats and they applauded really politely and held their cell phones up because no one flips a lighter anymore.
Yeah.
I suppose it could get monotonous, but I think the crowd keeps it interesting as much as anything I do.
It's so funny you say that. I was at a Killswitch Engage show a couple years back in Montreal, and that was the first time I had seen a Wall of Death. And I was in seating. I wasn't GA. I wasn't on the floor. I wasn't having that. I'm too old. I'm going to get my ass kicked. So I'm like, what is this? Like, what's going on here? And I was just like, oh, dear mother of God. Like, I can't even imagine seeing that, like, that close up. Like, it's craziness.
I'm proud to say that we contributed to the world of music one of the greatest walls of death of all time. It's like Loudwire even named it, I think, number 2 or something on the top walls of death of all time. And
right
I was
on.
like, yeah, you better fucking have it up that high. It's fucking awesome. And, but yeah, I got to keep myself interested. The crowd keeps it interesting. Like every day's different. You're going to see something that like blows your mind. And, I'm lucky. I love it.
So now, kind of following that from a gear perspective, do you find like I'm a gear nerd, and like new pieces of equipment get me super excited, whether it's like new pickups, new guitar, new amp, anything like that. And you kind of strike me as someone who's a little bit of a gear nerd. Like, do you get kind of pumped to try out new stuff on stage and like hear how it sounds?
Oh, totally. I'm a total fucking gear junkie, especially when it comes to stomp boxes.
Oh, okay. Let's talk. Let's
I
talk. What do you got going right now?
I've had over the years with like tons of rack gear, and I don't prefer to use them at all. It's like I want my effects to run on 9 volts.
Right on. Yeah.
Theoretically, I have some kind of power supply usually, but like in my garage here in the house, I have a whole shelf which is full of like a 5 shelf. It's just full of just stomp pedals,
That's awesome.
And I love that shit, and I'm always down trying out new amps, new this, new that, I'm a nerd. I'm capable of doing it myself. There's a lot of guys. Sometimes the bigger the band, the less the guys even what string gauge they use. I don't even know.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I love amps. I love all that shit. I love anything that delivers tone. It's like, I have coming out fairly soon. I got through Kirk Hammett's pedal company, my own signature parametric EQ distortion pedal that just dominates the world.
No way.
Like the perfect pedal.
Fucking A. That's is it KHD, his company?
Yeah.
Right on.
So it's like a tube tuner with a 3-band mid parametric.
Oh, dude.
Mid frequency parametric. And it's so sick. It'll take a stock Marshall and just turn it into a fucking crushing demon.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, because you run a tube screamer like on at all times, right, in front of your amp, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, depends on the amp. Like with Slayer, I use Marshall Jubilees, which are super powerful, super killer, but it's a classic vintage style Marshall head. It's not a high gain head. So, I used to use a tube screamer. Now I use the prototype of my new pedal because say in my Exodus rig, I use Engel Savage 120s with Exodus. And the key to my sound for a long time has been this PreSonus 3-band parametric. Right. And I only run the mid-band. Everything else is flat. It allows you to dial in a little bit of that wah pedal frequency, say, go. And then you can back it off to where it's just in that sweet spot, and it's super fucking aggressive. And now I've got that built into the distortion box, so
that's
I kind of replacing the PreSonus with my own pedal. But, the Engel doesn't need the tube screamer because, it's a modern high-gain amp.
Right. Are you still using the Kemper?
I use the Kemper for, traveling, because, but, it's kind of like one of those miracle tools for, bands like Exodus. They don't ship their gear worldwide. I can go to South America, and I'll take my Kemper, and all I need is, just any basic Marshall or something with an effects loop so I can just run that as a power amp into a couple of cabs, and it's awesome. And I've taken it out in lieu of my Engel rig on tours where I do stage space is going to be a minimum. Because my Engel rack is huge. It's a huge, state-of-the-art, professionally wired monster.
Yeah.
And it's killer. I have my Engels, my PV triple X's, that I used to use. I've got everything profiled into it. So I can just pick whichever one I want to use, Most of the time I use, my Savage 120 profile, which that's like my favorite modern amp in the world is the Engel Savage.
That was my next question for you.
Crushing. It's like a combination between a modded Marshall and a Boogie Mark IV. It's so bad.
Yeah, they're pretty killer amps. I sat down with one once, and it was like...
What's that? I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I sat down with one once, and it was one of those things where I'm like, what do I have to sell that I currently own to have this in my house? And how am I going to tell my wife that I purchased this?
It's awesome. I mean, before we did the Exodus album, Exhibit B, my guy who used to be at Engel, he sent me a couple of different amps, like brand new Powerball. And then he sent a used loaner Savage, and Lee plugged into the Powerball first, and, it was okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't what we were looking for. And I plugged into that Engel and just dialed in where I thought the settings should go. And holy fuck, this thing is perfect for this kind of music,
So now for amps, do you kind of stick to what you got on stage is what you're using in the studio, or do you tend to kind of fuck around in the studio a little bit and mix it up with like you were saying, like the Jubilees?
No,
and I know
I'll fuck around in the studio and try a little bit of everything. I mean, my rig, it's kind of simpler than it used to be. We were running Rick Uno and I, we were running studio quality EQs in our rigs and fucking, and and all this stuff like API EQs and fucking sonic maximizers and all this stuff. And I kind of have simplified it down to just the amp, with my little 3-band parametric, or, in the case of the Marshalls, with something to boost the front end. And I kind of like it like that. Keep it simple.
And for pedals, do you do onstage switching? Forgive me for not knowing that off the top of my head.
I'm sorry?
Do you do onstage switching?
In Slayer, my tech does all my cues except for the wall,
oh yeah, for
but
sure.
He's been working for me for 7 years. He knows every spot, even when to turn on the overdrive just for a note to let it hang a little more.
That's awesome.
I use Dunlop laws, and I use a bunch of Maxim pedals, and I had this one pedal by Epigazzi Audio I used quite a bit. And, some TC Electronic stuff, and a bunch of different stuff. I'm just such a junkie for pedals. I rotate them a lot. Other than what I use on my rhythm sound, sometimes I'll someone will give me something new and I'll like it and I'll use it for a tour or two. Then I'll go to something else.
Yeah. So now for guitars, so I have a lot of questions about your guitars, and I have to admit, your LTD model, the non-trem version of your signature, might be the next fight in my marriage, because I was reading the specs on it, and it was one of those things, like, I've been looking for a new guitar for a while now, and I just came again doing research for your interview, and I'm like, shit, I think this is the perfect guitar for me. I think this is the one I need to buy. It's spec'd out so well, and I'm not a Floyd Rose guy, so I like the non-trem version, but your signature guitar's fucking loaded. It's a hell of a deal. How did you come to just build that up with ESP and LTD?
Well, we started when we designed it. We started with the high-end model, and that thing was built to be everything I ever wanted in the guitar and ever needed, but the price reflects it. It's the LTD, you shouldn't have to cause marital problems buying that. It's cheap. Your wife will allow that one. Now, if you bought the other one, you might have
maybe
you're describing upon buying a almost $6,000 guitar. The LTD is just it's that neck, and you have the all mahogany neck and body with maple top and EMGs, and it's killer. It's slightly shorter scale, less false scale. That's what I wanted, and I love them. I play the LTD quite a bit live. It's also a lot lighter. And, in those times when my back problems are really flaring up, you'll notice the weight of the other ones.
Yeah.
Sure. And sometimes I Warren, my tech, will give me a guitar, and I'll say, no, I'm going to hang on to this one for the next song, because it weighs less.
So now what got you kind of back on the LTD train, or ESP rather, train? You seem to have a really, really good relationship with them and making some pretty fantastic looking guitars.
No, they've been awesome. It kind of started with Kirk Hammett. He was kind of pushing me, you got to join the ESP family, bro. And I went down, Exodus went, we played his Fear Festival Comic-Con show, and ESP had delivered a bunch of really beautiful guitars for him to use. They weren't even his. They were just rather than get his guitars out of the Metallica vaults, they sent some guitars for him to play, and I looked through them and I said, I'm going to keep this one. This one's mine, and Chris Canella, who was at ESP, he said, Matt, the president, said you could have that one. Just say happy birthday ESP on this, celebration video, and sure thing. And one thing led to another, and I just ended up joining the family. I mean, I was with ESP in the late 90s, and I was super happy, and then the band kind of broke up, and we kind of vanished for a little while. But, they've just been remarkable, the stuff they've done for me. And, I've got some guitars now, the Blood guitar. It's a truly iconic instrument, It's an honor to own it.
Well, and I have to ask, I would be remiss if I did not ask, is there any talks to kind of try and do an LTD version of the Blood guitar, and have that silk screened on? We talked about it, and we were going to do it, and an LTD version, a really limited number, and I'm hoping someday it'll happen. It's I think it kind of got struck down just because they felt that the Blood guitar was so unique in and of itself. And graphic guitars don't sell that well. I think we could have easily, done a limited run of, 100 of them and sold them, no problem. Yeah.
So, maybe someday. But, I'm stoked that I get to play that thing every day.
Yeah, that's a pretty, and I won't ask you necessarily all the details involved in that guitar, because there's plenty of interviews online, but how cool is that guitar to play? That's really not many people can say that they have an instrument that really kind of, maybe solidified isn't the right word, but it is a a physical depiction of their dedication to their craft. Like how special is that guitar to you?
I mean, it draws a crowd. You know, I mean, we've played shows and I've walked up to the stage, sound check, and people are just surrounding it, you know, wanting to get a look at it, you know.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You know, it's a genuine work of art, you know, and it's done on a guitar, and the medium it's done on is my blood, you know. It's like, you know, it's the only one in existence, and it's fucking rad, you know. And I remember when I first got it done, people were like, "Are you going to play it live?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah." Didn't have this thing, you know, didn't commission this thing, you know, between myself and Vincent Castiglia to hang it on the wall, you know.
Yeah.
Did this, like, to play with it, you know.
No, that's awesome. And it is the craziest guitar. I mean, like, it's got this weird, I don't know, kind of like a mythical following to it that, like, every time it pops up online, you're like, oh, that's the Blood guitar. Like, everybody who knows, you know?
Yeah. I'm pretty dope, you know. It's like, you know, everybody likes to own lots of guitars, you know. Some more than others. I got a lot of guitars. That thing there is like, stands out, you know. It's unique.
Yeah.
And it plays and sounds crushingly killer. So, you know,
I was going to say,
you know, it's far from all looks and no function.
Yeah. So what do you have on the docket for you for coming up in 2018? What's new? What's exciting?
Well, I'm kind of a big break from the world of Slayer, so now that my elbow's recovered, you know, I'm about to jump back into songwriting so we can get in the studio, like, you know, sometime maybe February next year for the new Exodus, and we've got Japan, you know, a couple of weekend type things like that. But right now I'm just enjoying being home. I'm actually sitting there watching squirrels play on the tree in the backyard, and it's fucking awesome. I'm loving it.
That's awesome. Well, you're in California, right?
Yeah. Weather's killer.
I was gonna say it snowed here today, but that's okay.
No, it's freezing here. It's probably about 68.
Oh, dude, don't even.
And some clouds out.
It's a rough life right there you got for you, man.
No, it sucks.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I've taken up just about an hour of your time, and I will not take up any more, but I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time to speak to me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will. I'm looking forward to this signature pedal coming out. I will happily scoop that up as soon as it gets released.
Rad. It'll do a lot of this shit that other pedals won't do. It's fucking phenomenal.
You're getting me excited. I like it.